Fun Inc. currently does not utilize any form of time tracking to monitor hours. And for now, we never will, because we don't do hourly rates with our customers. We do fixed pricing.
This is the part that depresses me the most about working for a company, is that the amount of energy companies spend making a PowerPoint about a metric blows my mind, versus if they put that same amount of energy into building a high performance team built on trust and fun and just great camaraderie.
And I think for me, the reason companies will start seeing dwindling numbers, start seeing problems, start having to lay off, etc., comes down to greed.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Summer of Atlassian. Today I got the one and only, the fun man, Andy.
Hey, what's up, senor? ¿Cómo estás?
Andy, I am so glad that I
Finally.
think you're like my second to last interview of the summer.
I'm glad we're finally squeezing it in. This is very awesome.
And I don't know that there's a better way to end a summer than with the fun man. So
Oh,
I think we're just gonna let you be the one that closes out summer for us.
Depends. It's definitely summer vibes here in Holland. We finally have really, really good weather, but it's only for 3 days. But yeah, good summer vibes. A nice way to end the summer, especially. Well, it depends on your questions and how I answer them this time round. So
no questions. It's just about to get to know the fun man a little bit better. So,
yeah,
Andy,
man.
you and I enjoy my conversation every time I have a conversation with you. And I'm assuming the last time you and I really spoke was in April, right? We're driving around the Las Vegas Strip. So why don't we start there? And then I'm going to ask you what's changed since then. So let's talk about that experience. What you think of our little show that we did there?
I mean, first of all, that should just be. I don't know if Salto are interested. I did reach out to them and ask if they're going to do some stuff for Barcelona. That should just be a staple of Atlassian events, especially the bigger ones. Just jumping in a car, driving around. You read the most recent launch. I just happened to see it launch that very second and got to watch it recently. The one with Brian as well during Config and Cruise was so awesome. Talking about talking about administration and all that comes with it is just so awesome. So yeah,
it was interesting how we came up with the idea, because essentially I ended up in a conflict of interest, if you will. Right?
Yeah, you really did. Yeah.
I ended up in a conflict of interest, and I was telling Salto, I was like, well, we got a bit of, I'm in a bit of a pickle here, and I want to work with you guys because I love working with the Salto team, but like I just got to pivot a little bit on the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And one of Salto's marketing leads, he's like, well, we don't have to do that kind of video.
Yeah.
And he's like, what if? And I was like, I'm listening. And he's like, what if we drive around, like we get a rental and everything, and we just drive around Las Vegas?
It was great.
An interview. I was like, that'd be good, because I was planning on driving there anyways. So I was like, oh man, it'll be perfect. I'm taking my car.
It was definitely the uber nerdy version of config and carpool karaoke, right? So
yeah,
you are now the James Corden of the tech world. So
I know, right? I'm building a little bit of a brand for myself. I'll just be known as the guy that interviews people in a car.
yeah, totally.
But that was fun. So that day was busy for you, though, right? Like you were MCing that
day was insane. I was MCing Cyber Media's Info Sesh Day, which was really awesome. I thought the panel sessions that they had were really fire, and the way that they also did these cool demo booths around the hall for the breaks and stuff was also really, really epic. And just a great way to start the whole Team 24 vibe in the best way possible. It's a very informative and business oriented style that most people have partied Saturday and Sunday already, right? So they're normally up for something a little bit more serious. So it's a great way to start the week.
How did you get picked for that? What was that selection process like?
I was working as a consultant for Cyber Media, and not had anything to do with events, but just kept getting asked who should we have on the panel session, and we have these ideas and all that sort of stuff. And then I just said, well, do you want me to MC it as well? So yeah, so in that small period that I was doing some consulting work for them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen some of my other. So we've been doing this for the whole summer, right? And I've had a few people that are from the Seabird ecosystem, and I swear, man, there's like I've given up hope on corporate America, but there's something in Germany over there that you guys are.
I mean, yeah, we shouldn't go down the route of geopolitics and stuff right now, but yeah, there's something up with just America.
My wife was like, "Man, I would work for Martin or Siebert any day of the week."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was really good fun.
And
But
it was
yeah, just
and it was a really
way
long
bigger
day for
plans
us.
than just. Sorry, say again.
And it was a really long day for us that day.
Yeah, I went from Cyber Media
Like
to
Tesla
meeting
with
up with
me,
you for Config and Cruise
I dropped you
to,
off somewhere.
yeah, squeezed in Tempo Partner Awards session, then went and had then finished off dinner with Cyber Media, and then um
Did you go to
uh
the Atlassian Champions welcome reception dinner?
yep, yeah.
Okay, so
So I
that's
went to the Atlassian community and
and then we
creators
walked over
welcome
to the
drinks and
Sphere.
dinner. Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, got a really awesome invite from Revise to go and join them for the Sphere experience. And I have to say, despite that being the longest day ever, and my advice to people is always, oh, pick and choose which events you do at Summit. It's really busy. Don't do 2 or 3 events in one day. I ended up doing 5.
Yeah, no, I think because the Steeper thing started at 8 a.m., right?
Uh, uh, yeah,
It
yeah.
was
Well,
early.
We were there as
Yeah, that's what I'm
soon as
like. It
possible, early
started at
morning for
8 for the public, and like you
yeah.
must have been there at least an hour or two before.
Yeah, I think I remember being there as early as something like 7:15 or 7 or something.
Yeah, and then
Um,
the Sphere, I
but
think it ended at 12-ish
yeah,
midnight,
yeah,
and then by
yeah.
the
That
time we
was
got
a
back to rooms and stuff, it was like almost 1 a.m.
yeah, but it was a good day. It was a great day, and it was an awesome way. And now, of course, we have to call. That's something to talk about for today. Now we have to talk about Team 24 in Vegas. There's always now that little extra on the end, right? With Barcelona coming, so.
I know, right? Yeah.
So a lot has changed since we were hanging out in Vegas, face to face, driving around
Bring
on
me
the
up to
strip.
speed because a lot has changed going up to Vegas that we haven't had a chance to talk about. But
Yeah,
what is going on with Fun Andy putting the Fun in Fun Inc? What is this Fun Inc?
yeah. Fun Inc. in short is just my career put into
A
services,
Rubik's Cube?
basically. So yeah, definitely a Rubik's cube, man. I love Rubik's cubes.
No, I thought it'd be funny.
The
Your career put into a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, my career put into a Rubik's Cube. I'm not a multi-millionaire despite working for these huge corporates and stuff. And I went freelancing since 2015. And I
Wait, wait,
just,
hold on, though. But if you say you're not a
yeah,
multi-millionaire, that just means you have a single heir.
I'm just got a wife and kids and bills to pay.
I remember
That's
I got a
it.
message from you like last summer. You like it reminds me. Have you seen the movie The Founder, the story of McDonald's?
No, but I've seen a lot of YouTube shorts about it though. It's quite
Yeah, so
fun.
there's a
Yeah,
scene in the Founder where the guy's like, "Why you're not making money hand over fist is beyond me.
yeah.
Like you should be making a lot of
It's a
money." And
good quick. I
it
should be right. I ask myself this all the time,
but
but
I remember this. I remember this email you sent me last summer where you're like, "Alex, we should be making money hand over fist."
right? Yeah,
Like, why
McDonald's
both you
style.
and I are not multimillionaires 1 year later is
It's.
still blowing
Do you
my
know what?
mind.
I catch up with Cookie from time to time still, and he said sometimes it's just always the right place at the right time. So maybe in the next life,
How's
faster.
Cookie doing though? He's been ignoring my calls.
Really? Oh
I,
man.
to my defense, I haven't really been calling him that hard.
I would guess I mean, he always picks up the phone, so if you call him, he will pick up and answer. So
I would
you
have
have
to
to
get his
bug him a
number
bit more.
first. No,
Yeah.
it's,
But
Chris, I
back to
don't.
oh sorry.
Yeah, back to your story. Go ahead.
Yeah, I Fun Inc. is just I've spent really good career, almost 20 years now in digital transformation for variety of massive different industries, tech, building, um, airline industry, you name it. And the one thing that I always found so interesting is basically managing a variety of different teams, whether I was a project manager, a change manager, a senior program manager, or whatever, everyone always needs that emotional support. And a lot of times I don't do as much speaking as I do on project management. I did loads of speaking about 10 years ago. for project management methodologies and everything. And whenever someone young would come up to me and go, "Oh, what's your best advice for me? What should I study? Which book should I buy?" And they're always shocked when I would say stuff like Radical Candor by Kim Scott and Emotional Intelligence. There's so many books on that subject. Just pick one. Or I can't remember the lady's name. There's a book on neuroscience in organizations. Those are my top 3 books. You've got all of these books about how to do agile or product management or scrum or whatever, but you can't get people to function if they're not happy and they're not well balanced and they're not mentally good or feeling healthy and fit. And the amount of people, I can count the amount of people that have had a complete meltdown and cried on my shoulders on 2 hands. It's 9 over the years. And I think it was about 2018, people just kept asking me a lot, how are you having so much fun at work? Especially at the time I was working for a very small company and the pay was not great. But we were having fun. What we were doing was really awesome. And then it just becomes a choice of, well, instead of working for a corporate and earning really well, but being miserable, just go do something that I actually like doing. And then, of course, the fun man moniker came along. So we talked about that in my last session with
Interview
you,
last
right?
summer,
Like,
right?
where did this fun man name came from? And it's just rolled into Fun In Companies Limited, or the Dutch version, BV. So Fun Inc. isn't incorporated. It is in Holland under a BV, the Dutch version. But the Inc. is actually an anagram in companies. And it's still very heavily focused on profitability and helping people with what I've always helped people with, which is increased revenue, lower costs, etc. But there's an angle of making sure that culturally companies are funcking much
I think that's
better
such
and really well.
but it's such an important topic that I think, and going back to our geopolitics of corporate America, when you smile at work, it means you're not being productive.
Yeah, people. I think that counts for a lot of companies. I've traveled to Asia, and in particular, last autumn, I finally got to go to South Korea, which was awesome. I've been to India loads. I love going to India. If people haven't been to India before for business, they really need to. But I think human beings in general, not just corporate America, if you're not stressed, overworked, spending 12 hours a day at the office, are you working, right? And then there's all this, there's been all of this huge return to office policies recently that just, they're all enforced, right? So it's enforced RTO policy. It's just insane. It's like, why are you forcing people to go back when all the reports, everything is proving people are better off remote, happier. Some people are also happier in the office. They like the office environment. They feel more focused. They like to engage with people and stuff. But yeah, there's this weird thing of like, if you are smiling, if you're walking around happy and stuff, then you're not working hard enough or whatever, right? I'll never forget. I'm going to call them out actually, which is a bit rude, but I wouldn't be the fun man if I didn't. So I worked for a company called Dato up in Hoofddorp near Amsterdam, from 2010 until 2013, and there was one afternoon, 5 p.m. ish, right? So in theory, end of work day for most people. And I'd went upstairs and I was talking to some colleagues, and it's all like this big open floor policy. You can sit wherever you want. And I was knackered. I'd been working so hard for 3 weeks straight on huge internal projects and helping manage the logistics, da da da. And I had my hands behind my back, and I was just like chatting away. And the best part is that after that, after about half an hour of chit chat, 2 people went home. One person was still behind the laptop, and I said, "Oh, I've got loads of work to do." And I went off and worked for something crazy, like 3 hours before I drove home to my wife, which was a good 50-minute drive without traffic. And the best part is that I think it was literally the next day or the day after, my boss came to me and was like, "Oh, there's an HR complaint that you weren't working hard." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they uh and it was literally like someone had seen that, not someone within our group, but someone from a distance, and I suspect I know which vice president it was. And had made a complaint about me, and I was like, "What?" So yeah,
I
that
don't.
that sort of stuff is just insane. Like it's so weird that companies are so worried about are people working and this and that and da da da, that they forget that they're not fixed on results, right? Outcomes. At Atlassian, follow Mark Kruth in particular and Dom Price. The amount of times they use the words outcomes, because I would rather hire somebody who pisses around all day, but at the end of the day, they
Gets the
make
job done.
gets the job done, right? Than
Yeah.
somebody constantly freaked out, constantly burnt out, and is not delivering at all. And the downside is that it's been proven, and I find it so funny that companies just still don't grasp this concept, that it's been proven time and time again that eventually companies fail, fall apart, crumble, shareholder value goes down, and it leads to bizarre layoffs, right? So within our
That doesn't
ecosystem,
help anybody either.
yeah, within our ecosystem, something happened last week that was writing on the wall for me, but shocking to other people who didn't see it coming. But companies have to lay off people, and it's like, are you stupid? Like what? Like, but then when you see internally everything that goes on with these different companies, yeah, it's no wonder that it's not going well.
Yeah, that
Strategy
brings
can't
me.
be understood. People don't have good tactical plans. The operations aren't running, etc., etc. Like
That
it's
brings me
just.
to four stories I want to talk to you about. Then.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, first story. I had a very similar like I lean back moment once. I was working. I was a big defense contractor, and this team that I worked in, like talk about fun. It was like borderline inappropriate. Like we brought blankets into work once, and we came in pajamas, and like we built
Oh, that's
forts at
hilarious.
work. So
That's
we knew how to
brilliant.
have fun. Like that was, I think, the most fun or team I've ever worked in. But one time, I we were working on a build, right? And have you ever built code before? Like had the
Nah,
screen.
no.
So have you ever seen code compiling though? When it's like once you hit save or publish or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever, like it does its thing, and you got all this screen, there's text going over the screen. I was doing that. And so I had just hit enter. My friend and I were just like, for like 2 hours, we were like trying to fix a problem. And we hit enter, and the text starts going up the screen. And we both like lean back like this. And at that moment, our manager walked in, and she's like, "What are you two slacking off for?"
Oh my
And I was
God.
like, "Where's this coming
Yeah,
from? We like literally spent the last 2 hours trying to solve
yeah,
a problem. We just hit enter, and we just happened to like
yeah.
out of relief
That's
lean back, right?"
Yeah, and just to interject though, that's why I recommend radical candor to every senior manager upwards, middle management upwards, all the way to CEO, even shareholders, board of directors, or whatever. If you don't, that's that person's coming in and challenging you directly, but also not, they don't care about you. So radical candor is the ultimate radical candor is two aspects: caring personally and challenging directly. They don't know your job. Like that's the weird part of running Fun Inc. I hire right now. I'm in the middle of hiring subcontractors. I don't tell them what to do. It's the age old BS thing that Apple's always said, right? Don't hire smart people and tell them what to do. They tell you what to do, and I just got to let go of the reins. And it's so funny. I mean, how did that manager not know what your job entails? And
Yeah.
but
Yeah, no, it's
but yeah.
again, I think it's just this thing where like if you're not have you there's a I guess like a fifth story I'll share. There's this guy, this TED talk that he did. Maybe it was just a YouTube video, but there was a guy who he was working at this company, and he came in late, and his manager was on his case about being in the office late, and he's like, "You're coming in too late. You're not being productive. Everybody sees you coming in late, and so they can see that you're not doing like you're not carrying
Mm,
your weight of this team, right?" And so
yeah.
he quit. So he quit. And what he did was because he was coming in late, right after he turned in his 2 weeks notice, um, he binge watched every single episode of like Friends, who brought every Star Wars movie, every saga, all of them, right? For 8 straight hours, he would watch TV. And his manager every day would come and say, "Great job." Because he was at his computer for 8 hours, not
Oh
doing a single ounce of
man.
work, but rather just watching TV.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was at his desk is
It
what the company thinks is productivity.
Yeah. It's so funny because I've literally the amount of time I've wasted in my life when in the very early stages of my career, sitting watching YouTube or something like that, and we're talking mid 2000s, because I went in for low level jobs and whatever was available on the market at the time, and I was getting my job done within the first 2 hours of my working day, and it's like, well, what now? go to your manager, get extra tasks, get extra projects, complete those. Cool. Kept me busy for another 3 or 4 hours each day. And you're just like, oh my God. And then I remember having a really cool conversation with a manager that I got on so well with in one of the first companies I ever worked for, saying, I'm always done at around 3 p.m. Can I just leave? And they go, oh my God, no, I will have so much trouble with everybody else in the teams. There's two different teams that we were working for. One handled Western Europe, one handled Eastern Europe. And she's like, no, it'll just cause so many problems. And then you're just sitting there not being efficient, not being productive, and you're kind of going, well, all my tasks are done, what more do you want from me? But it almost, looking back on that time, I got on really well with the colleagues also. So it's not like I want to bitch and moan about them, but there's definitely, I think that's why I went freelancing eventually. I don't know if you've seen Ray Foot's recent post on LinkedIn about sort of corporate exodus, but
Yeah.
for me, it's been going on for hundreds of years, if you ask me. But
That's, I mean, both
um,
of those stories. That's usually, or that's the first story is that I
yeah,
left that team immediately
yeah.
because I'm like,
I mean, if that company I worked for would pay me by the hour, I would have left that office every day at 11, and they'd have gone, holy shit, we have saved so much money from that really efficient, productive guy.
right.
Whereas now they're like, well, no, you're on a full-time salary, you have to stay here all day, and it's like, oh my God. But
I remember when
yeah.
the third story I was going to share with you is when COVID hit. I changed companies to a small robotic startup in San Diego, and they had never worked from home before. Like it was always mandatory in the office. And so they were like, the CEO down, everybody's like, we'll see you in 2 weeks, guys. We'll just, in 14 days, we'll be right back in the office. Like, worry not, right? And I remember like 2, 3 months into it, they decided to do an audit of like, okay, so how productive are our teams? And
Mm,
so they pulled the pull request frequencies of the developers, right? How many PRs are the developers committing? And they saw like a 15x improvement from when they were in the office versus being
yeah.
at home. And then like, well, there goes that narrative of like, oh, you guys aren't being as productive. Like they had such a hard time. Everything that they threw at us for an entire year of like trying to say come back to the office, it failed on
Mm,
them because they couldn't find a metric that being in
right.
office was better. But they
And that's
tried
why
so hard.
enforced RTOs just make people look super evil. I think it's Nike that fell foul the most in the last 2 years. I think it was last autumn. They launched their return to office policy, and everyone just went. Somebody actually on LinkedIn, it's a shame I never bookmarked it, but someone had posted on it on LinkedIn, and another person in the comments had found an article from Nike themselves off their own website that said why remote work is so great and we're so productive. So that shift from 2 years ago, we were shouting about it and writing articles, to suddenly, oh, no, we want everyone in the office. It's just mind blowing. It's insane.
It makes me wonder what their logic actually is then, because Dell, I don't know if you've heard, but Dell, the computer company, they had a very similar thing where they basically gave their team members an ultimatum: come into the office or you will never be promoted.
Mm, yeah,
Right, you won't get salary increases, you won't be
right.
promoted. And so everybody's like, cool.
Yeah, great. Cheers, mate.
Yeah,
Never
we'll
see
just
you
stay at home.
like, yeah. I mean, historically, companies have been terrible at bonuses and promotions anyway, so that's not going to change. So why come into the office extra? Like, whatever. But that
Yeah,
again is coming back to radical candor and your previous story about the manager walking in. Hey, why are you guys slacking off? Those decisions are always made by people who are not in touch with reality, shareholders, board of directors, or whatever. And it's not. I normally like to offend these people straight to their faces as well. So if anyone's at an event and wants to talk to me about it and says, I'm a board of director, I'm offended, I'll have a long chat with them and offend them to their face. But they just don't get it. They don't understand what people are going through and how and everything like that. And I think one of my favorite things is I once worked for a company um, whereby someone who had an interesting position within the company, but was also part of the shareholders and whatever, blah, 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 was making a lot of decisions. And the only thing I could keep hearing about this person was that their house was worth 3 million or something. Or the only thing people could ever say was like, oh, that person's that person's house is worth 3 million, whatever. And I was like, this is all everybody talks about, is that one person who makes the wrong decisions for the organization, and they always talk about the value of their car or their house or their whatever. And it's really interesting. I think if you don't talk to people, if you don't try to care about them personally, like the challenging directly just makes you sound like an obnoxious arsehole.
Yeah.
If people don't know Radical Candor, they really should. Like, you really need to read it and get to grips with it.
But
Because
I
in
feel with
my
Radical Candor, like, I think, have you ever read Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership?
No, I haven't.
Have you heard of his book though?
No, never. I've never even heard of it.
So we'll come back to the Radical Candor part, right? But Jocko Willink wrote a book. He's a U.S. Navy SEAL, the toughest of the toughest, the best of the best that our military has. And he wrote a book on basically taking all the applications of surviving in the art of war and turning it into corporate America.
Mm.
Right. And the whole premise of the book is ownership, right? When somebody messes up, it wasn't somebody messed up, it's I messed up. I didn't provide the clear instruction. I didn't provide the right direction. I didn't provide the right support. I wasn't clear, right? It's not that somebody made a mistake, because I made the mistake. And it's all about ownership of the mistakes, right?
Yeah.
But he came out with a second book called The Dichotomy of Leadership. And he's like, when I published Extreme Ownership, people took it too much to their side. And I feel like with Radical Candor, like, there's a way to just be very mean with Radical Candor, but there's a balance to the candor.
There is a balance. Like, you can't. It's the goal is to always strive for that top right vector, and the very furthest corner, top right in that vector. I think it's the only way to really.
But you can't just come and tell somebody, and because the whole premise of Radical Candor, right, is that you're clear on the feedback, right?
Yeah.
But some folks, and I think this goes back. I don't know if you saw my conversation with Ray, right? But Ray's in our conversation about like psychology in the workplace is just so critical, because like, you can't tell somebody whose mom just died, like, hey, you're not, even if you're clear with the feedback, like the context of the situation has to also be acknowledged.
Yeah, totally.
A lot more psychology. I feel like, I don't know, you don't. I have an engineering degree, right? And so as engineers, we're always taught that like numbers, like we're good at numbers, and that's like our thing, right? But the human element of working, I feel like a lot of the problems we see in these companies is like, we're not taught how to be human beings. We're just taught how to solve math problems.
Yeah. That's why I always, with Fun Inc. and nearly all of my career, that's why I was always focused on the 3 Ps of people, processes, and products, whether that's a product you use internally or a product or a service sold externally. Because whenever those are not in alignment and something goes wrong, companies won't fail. They won't go under. We see extreme cases, right? Body Shop earlier this year, very famous UK-based cosmetics and shampoos and stuff like that. They went under and had to go into administration. And it was not fun going to the UK and watching a shop that I went to as a child, loads, all of them shut, boarded up and stuff. So that's an extreme example of when things go wrong. But anytime shareholders are complaining that they need more value for their dollar, I just go, well, fix your people, processes, and products.
Yeah,
and they just don't get it, because I think in the same regard for you as an engineer, shareholders only understand one thing, and that's numbers. And they don't understand what is the lying sort of the ultimate factor behind that's driving numbers and everything like that.
I think the kiss of death for a company is when you put your CFO to be your CEO.
Oh, now, very debatable. I've heard this a lot. I've worked for a company where their chief commercial officer got to be CEO, and it just turned into the biggest sales company ever, and everyone was angry. It's really debatable, but then but anyway, your story. Go ahead.
But I've seen this over my whole career, right? I worked on a team where everything was awesome until our senior manager, who was an economics major, came in, and like everything became about the numbers. And I just remember the entire dynamic of the team drastically changing because all of a
Mm,
sudden it went from being outcome driven to just number driven,
mm,
right? And the number of like this is the part that depresses me the most about working for a company is that the amount of energy companies spend making a PowerPoint about a metric blows my mind versus if they put that same amount of energy into like building a high performance team built on trust
mm,
and fun and just great camaraderie, like
yeah,
you wouldn't need the reason. Like I can't rally behind metrics because I'm like the only reason you need a metrics is you have a crappy company or a
right.
crappy team.
Yeah, yeah. As well as on top of that, there's loads of factors contributing to that. One of them is people trying to prove that their job is worth existing. A lot of time, people making presentations are making it because some manager needs to prove
You
their
don't
job
need to
needs to
prove
go
it if
into a
you're
call.
outcome driven, right? Because the proof is
Right,
in the pudding.
exactly. Yeah. I Fun Inc. currently does not utilize any form of time tracking to monitor hours. And for now, we never will because we don't do hourly rates with our customers. We do fixed pricing. We work out the scope very, very clearly. We put a lot of time and energy and our own money and resources into pre-sales to make sure the scope's abundantly clear so there's no changes in the future. And if it is a change, it's not come from unclear scope in the beginning. It's come from, well, we want something different or something new or whatever. So there's a whole new contract or whatever. And then with the whole time tracking principle, it's the most hated part of corporate life. People always like, oh, I have to do my timesheets. What? Why? Um, I never I once had to in the augmented reality industry. I once had to sit teams down and really help them understand that the time tracking within this company was more for them to prove how busy and overworked they are, and not just filling in 40 hours and making sure it's all fine. If companies, I would believe in time tracking if companies did it properly, and that means understanding where your inefficiencies are. Every company, every employee at a company works more than 40 hours, in my opinion, or works more than their contract, whatever their contract hours are. And and especially within the services industry, I've seen companies really argue with their customers over the hours for that week. 45 minutes, 1.5 hour call. Well, those 5 hours we don't agree with because it's not within their budget, right? And so those extra 5 hours is going to push them over budget, and it's 5 hours every week. Well, then they've got a problem on their hands. And it's just our customers, the ones who sign the contract, they get it straight away. They just go, oh yeah, fixed price. Here's the scope. If you work less or more hours, no one cares because it's about the outcome and what gets delivered. So you know,
Yeah, that
so
brings me up
time.
to it. I have a team that I work with. We have a 30-minute every single day meeting where we just hang out.
Mm,
The only thing on the agenda is to literally say like today's Monday, so it's like a weekend report. What did you do this weekend?
yeah.
Right?
We had that a lot during COVID because the company I was working for at the time was pretty much anyone who was involved in sales or commercial and customers and stuff had a hybrid format because of going to visit and going to whatever events and stuff as well. But we really, once COVID hit, I think our daily stand-ups used to be anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes, depending on how intense an issue got discussed. We suddenly were having daily stand-ups for hours because we just missed the in-office camaraderie, and we're all at home and we're all stuck and we can't go anywhere and we can't hang out for beers and stuff like that. And same thing. Mondays, oh, how was your weekend? Tuesdays, oh, did you guys see what happened last night on news or whatever?
Right.
And you know,
Yeah,
uh,
but this team though, this 30 minutes, I've been doing it for like 2 years now, and it gets challenged quite a bit,
yeah, I
right?
can imagine.
From leadership, and they're like,
Yeah,
should they're like the pressure is like, why do you have this meeting? And the pushback that I always give them back is, when have you ever asked me and my team to do something and we didn't finish it in 20 minutes or
right.
less? And
Yeah,
because they can't find a single occurrence where we haven't finished something that they asked us to do in 20 minutes or less,
yeah,
like they it's hard to argue because my team is just so coordinated, right? Like we jump in, troubleshoot, solve it, and push it out
yeah,
in 20 minutes. And there's like no
yeah,
other team in this company that has this track record and this level of performance. But there's also no other team in this company that spends 30 minutes every
yeah,
day to just literally invest in themselves.
yeah.
And
Yeah, it's funny as well because the fun part is the hypocrisy of it all as well. I worked for a US corporate years and years and years and years ago, and it was brilliant that there was so much pressure on always being at the office, always finishing everything on time, this and that, da da da. And then you just hear stories of the corporate retreats that seniors are going on, um, where nothing gets done for an entire week, and it just sounds like one massive holiday jolly for leadership. And actually, that fun story about Ideto, um, I'll never forget the time. Some months later, on a Friday afternoon, um, it was obviously like it was after 3 o'clock, so things got a little bit rowdy. But I remember people were using one of the coffee trays from downstairs as the from the canteen, like those nice black ones, the rounded ones. We're using it as a frisbee to each other, and I was really, I was I remember seeing that the VP who I suspected had complained about me, my hands behind my head and stuff, was also there throwing the frisbee around. And I'm like, I remember walking over to my manager and being like, "Are you seeing this?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "So we're gonna go make a HR complaint that people are throwing shit around like a frisbee when they should be working?" And I remember he was like, "Not upsetting that apple cart." And I was just like, "Oh my god." But interestingly enough, just to talk some more shit about them, I think it was within 8 months of those incidents, um, they offered people voluntary layoff redundancy. So it was like, take one now, get a good deal, or in X months, struggle. So I found it interesting again, like, people are more worried about Andy sitting with his arms behind his back and not asking, what's going on? How come you're so chill? It's like, well, I was here at 7 a.m. and I'm going to be here till 10 p.m. And then you can go, oh shit, wow, that's a long day. Yeah, cool. Well, good luck. See you later. No.
yeah,
Goes and complains about it and wastes everybody's time because it was a formal HR thing that had to go through my manager and my manager's manager. And then, in the same year, you're laying people off. Like, well done, dickhead. So, but
it,
that keeps me in a job, right? That keeps me with Fun Inc. because companies suck. Actually, it's
yeah,
quite funny. At some point, we have to make a decision how fast and how hard we want to grow, and we know our cash flow gap for the coming 2 years. Um, but it's amazing if I have that. If we go and get some financial investors in the coming 6 to 9 months, it's amazing how many people across so many different industries I know that are good enough to handle working for a startup in a very how do you say, uncertain environment such as ours, where they would thrive. They would leave their job for probably 20% less pay, and all these companies would just see a load of people suddenly move to Fun Inc. And the best part is we'll probably just hire them straight back to their companies. I've seen it happen so often. It's going to happen at some point as well.
it's interesting you say that because
So,
like I've thought about the same thing. Like I've been I've since 2010 that I got my first job, so 14 years ago now. It has been a long time. 14 years. It's always been like the same story of like, I don't know, work sucks, right? Like,
yeah.
and every time I want to change something about like my work situation, I'm like, well, the grass is not always green on the other side. And I'm like, it always leads me back to I rather just build my own thing because it's the only way you can control and
Mm.
create the atmosphere that you want to create. Because going anywhere for any other company, it's always their way of doing things.
Yeah, I can tell you that creating a fun company is not fun. Right? There's all the same old shit that goes along with creating any company. Yeah.
But you're saying
And
something interesting though. Is the business model that you have to help launch a fun company, or is it to convert a company to a fun company?
no, it's not to convert a fun company. Our ultimate goal is basically to change the way that business is being done and leave behind a happy world of humans. So any company that needs help with their business is basically one of our viable customers. Our sales pipelines is insane. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're a marketplace consultant for Atlassian marketplace people, right?" It's like, nope. And I start telling them who we're in contact with and who we're talking to, and they're like, "Oh my god." Um, it's a weird one for people to get their heads around, because obviously a lot of consulting firms, especially as small as ours, normally focus on one area. And it's not about. I think what you said is half true. Turning companies into fun companies. It's about people wanting to go to work and actually doing what they enjoy doing, and removing huge silos and removing all the conflicts and everything like that. One thing I find interesting is that the moment teams are excelling and it's recognized and people understand what they've been through to get it, how much fun it is for everybody else. Um, I can't remember. I can't remember where I read this, but someone was once talking about how some big boss was up on stage and was congratulating a specific team on a good win, and looked over at a director, and they knew the team was reporting somehow into that director, and just said, "Oh, so and so director's team, congratulations." And the whole team is like, well, the guy knew we were working on it, but we didn't do. He didn't contribute anything to the overall project. I mean, imagine when you're a team member, and I'm sure the senior leader meant well, right? It's a big massive moment. Everybody's together. You're on stage. There's thousands of people coming together or whatever. But you know, they don't know. They don't know the team, so why even mention it, right? Unless you have all the facts and stuff. And that's the point of people have to work. We live in a world where we've created this idea that you have bills and you have mortgages to pay and everything, and so it needs to be fun, because I would challenge any multimillionaire whose company is suffering decrease in numbers, right? Their profitability is suffering, shareholder value is going down, to reach out to me and tell me that I am wrong, because I'm like, well, look at someone like Richard Branson. Sure, they've had troubles over the years over at Virgin, and businesses have gone under or whatever, and new businesses have started and stuff. But Richard Branson swears blind that the reason he's successful is that he's always looked after the customers. And people have said, how do you look after the customers? And he says, look after your employees. And that's always been his mantra. And he's a billionaire, right? He's one of the most famous
Right. Yeah.
people in the world when it comes to businesses. He says he's always looked after the employees as much as possible. So any shareholder or board of director or whoever, where the company's suffering and the numbers are going down and down and down, look at how you're treating your people. Literally go ask them as well. Are you guys happy? Please be honest. No. I every time I work for a company and they have some form of internal
Like
feedback app
survey. Yeah.
or something, man, within the first week they already start getting my feedback. And often these things are not anonymous. So I leave my name in there and I tick share my name. They're just like, what is this? And
Andy
the
just likes
brave
to put a
ones.
target on
Sorry?
his back.
Sorry, say again?
I said Andy just likes to put a target in his back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Why not? Because that's the other thing as well. In general, human beings don't like having a target on their back, and they find it very difficult to talk to their boss and their boss's boss and everything. And what happens? A great employee leaves within 1 to 2 years because they didn't feel like they could open up and talk honestly and whatever. Sometimes they need somebody else to shout it for them.
Yeah.
The
No,
the the
definitely.
brave CEOs of the world reach out to me on those internal feedback and just book in a call and go, I have no idea what's going on in this company. So what, how, why, like, how do we improve it? But yeah, for me, there will always be people, right? If somebody leaves, oh, just find a replacement. Every human being is always just a number, right? But what kind of number are you letting go? If they have experience, if they have the knowledge, can you really replace them with an external, even if that's external's cheaper and it looks better on your P&L books, when they
That's
have
that,
no idea what to do and
that's
how?
another kiss of death that I think a lot of companies do, where they let go of top heavy players because
Yeah,
their salaries are ballooned versus the value they're bringing. But
yeah,
sometimes that value's hidden,
right.
right? Because it's so hard. Like I had a guy that I worked with. He had 35 years of experience. My ability to go to him and get a 2-second answer was weeks of research for me.
Yeah, yeah,
And he got laid off because again he's very 35 years balloon salary. Now I spend hours, if not days, researching and looking things up
right.
that normally
It's
used to take me seconds.
it's that age-old famous blog where this 60-year-old comes into some factory or something and flicks a switch, and the machine that has been down for 2 weeks has
True.
been suddenly works, and he says that'll be $10,000 or whatever, and they go $10,000 for 2 seconds of work, and he goes, yeah, because you guys don't know how to fix it, and it's taken me 40 years in my career to work out how these machines work. So you're not paying for 2 seconds of work, you're paying for my knowledge, my
Yeah,
experience,
I think I gotta
right?
re-engage
Mm.
with Cookie now because Cookie back when Rodney remember Rodney, my partner here, he quit his job
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
the Cookie calls us up and he's like, guys, we should do like a business a lasting consulting business. And I'm like, what would we charge? And Chris's answer was like so ludicrously crazy high.
Yeah, it should be as well. I
And
mean,
I'm like, who in the world would pay that number for us? And he's like, you guys don't understand the value that you two bring to the table.
yeah, you two don't. I mean, the amount of that's the thing. What I find so crazy about companies is when really good people who can definitely fix the challenges and increase profitability and everything within their current contract that they're happy with, 32 or 40 hours or 90K a year or 150K a year, whatever. They let those people go, and then at some point, the only thing you will have left is either a load of long term, over the hill people who don't know what they're doing, a load of juniors, and then the only option is to go external to a consultant. And the
Yeah.
amount, I think I know 5 people personally, like really people I speak to regularly, once a month or every 2 months or something, important people in my network and in my life. Those 5 people have all, at one stage in their career, left a company and within 2 to 12 months had a reach back and gone, we don't know what to do. And they've gone, here's an exceptionally high hourly rate. I will come back and I'll work 10 to 15 hours a week or whatever, or 20, and I will fix it for you. And they've just gone, please, yes,
Please, yeah.
here's a contract, sign. And what's amazing is that we were talking earlier about, if people are smiling, are they really working? The amount of people I know that have way too much on their plates and feel undervalued by management. And then there's always this big conversation, oh, hey, I'm doing too much. Maybe we should hire a junior and this and that. And then there's always a discussion about budgets and blah, blah, blah. But those 5 people had way too much on their plate, were having proper good conversations with their management. The management understood and this and that, but they didn't get what they needed to help lighten the load. Well, they left. They got replaced by somebody else who just within 2 years is burning themselves out. But when they came back, the work they did for the company was a fraction of. Let's say 5 core tasks became only one, and then they got paid more money to do it. And you're just like, what? Why are companies so dumb? I don't know. At some point, once Fun Inc. scaled up, and I'm probably less involved with the day-to-day tactical planning and operations, I'll pour some time into understanding why
There should be
companies
like the fund
make this
conversion
decision.
plan, right? Where you take companies and you put them on the fund plan.
Yeah, there is. It's like for $60,000 a month, you can have Fun Inc. come in and fix your company.
There you go. That's all you need.
Yeah.
And in all of this, though, I think if we go back to our conversation of the economy of leadership, right? There's got to be almost like a dichotomy of fun. Um,
Yeah.
early to mid, I guess 2021 timeframe on TikTok, you would see a lot of these more junior people at companies like Google that are notoriously known for fun, right? Going in and saying like there was like a bunch of influencers that were like, "Hey, this is a day in the life of a project manager at Google." And like I start off by rolling into the office at 10 a.m. Then I jump into it straight to my breakfast, and then I have my coffee. Then I go to the meditation room, and then I take a couple of meetings, and then I'm back to the meditation room, right? And then like I think they were having too much fun, right? But there's got to be a balance because
Mm,
you can't just only have fun.
no, no. Everybody,
By the way,
everybody's
all the
always
TikTokers are gone now because they all got laid off.
right. Yeah, exactly. They're all gone. It's really funny that people see, especially the work I did for Old Street, all that traveling, all that posting about all the fun we're having and stuff like that. They don't see what happens behind the scenes. The effort to make something like that happen is just phenomenal, really huge, very, very intense. And so the balance is always tipped far hard in the work life scale. The fun part lasts for about a few hours. The hard graft to make the fun part happen will go on for months. Will go on
Yeah, but
for
that's what I'm
months
saying.
and
Like even
months,
just like
right?
that 30-minute meeting that I have every single day, that's
Yeah.
enough
But it's
fun
yeah. But it's
to
gotta
then.
happen, right? It's got to happen. Like my alcohol intake is so seriously down at the moment that people are even like, oh, maybe I should stop drinking as well. Every time I go somewhere, literally the I'll have one or maybe two is a fact. But so many people, apart from last December in Amsterdam, some people can tell you
You live in
that happens
Amsterdam though, isn't
occasionally.
that like a
But
whole? Doesn't that
yeah,
come with its own stigma?
it does. It definitely does, especially during a 2 day Atlassian Unleash event. And yet, so many people will turn to. Oh, we definitely have to talk about this when it comes into in regards to fun in companies, and that is I think the last 6 months, the explosion of TikTok videos laughing about corporate management thinking that beers and pizza on a Friday afternoon is the thing to make people happy. Have you seen those?
Yeah, I have.
It they're brilliant. They're just brilliant, and it's just like I think one of my favorite TikToks. It used one of those CapCut type things of some famous guy dancing or whatever, and and at one point the CapCut has his arms doing this, opening up as if presenting something, and this TikTok was hilarious because the music they used was utterly ridiculous, and the text at the top just goes, uh, um, "Why management trying to work out how to solve employee morale going down." And then as the hands open up, the next text was just an emoji of beer and pizza. It's like,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
enough.
and hmm,
They think that
I
that's enough.
yeah, I'm gonna say something really controversial and really poignant that's gonna make a lot of people who watch this video go, "You are absolutely insane," and we completely don't agree with you. And I think for me, the reason companies will start seeing dwindling numbers, start seeing problems, start having to lay off, etc., comes down to greed. The amount my accountant pulls his hair out. He is like, dude, you are so close to break even every month. Like, stop hiring so many subcontractors. Stop paying them so much. Stop this and that and da da da. And I just turn around and I go, yeah, but I want to build a very successful company that can be a benchmark in how to do it right and how to be good from the get go. I can't hire a load of juniors and try and train them up. I need the best of the best, right? So I needed brand guidelines, and I didn't have 6 to 9 months to do it. I had a month and a half, 2 months tops. What did I do? I hired Claire, who is just the most insane graphics designer ever, who just takes my bizarre Andy Coral Draw pieces of paper and pen, and after a few sessions of explaining it to her, makes a Rubik's cube with the 9 cubes of fun, um, which we can meet up for another time on the Jira Life and talk
All
about.
right, yeah, we did. I didn't
But
even know you had a 9 cubes of fun, but
yeah, but it's like, I could have easily just taken on all the contracts that have come our way recently, hired a load of juniors, put a load of pressure on them, and squeezed out the profitability and the margins. But no, we're still bootstrapped. We haven't gone to investors yet. It's going to be very, very tough for the coming 6 months, probably minimum. Still hiring people who are exceptionally qualified and thus more than I can actually afford at the moment, more than we as a
yeah,
company can
because I think
afford.
at one point though, we as fun continues to mature and grow, do we need to have the tools discussion? Because you have the people and process part down, but the tools have to help augment
Oh yeah, absolutely,
people and process.
absolutely. Yeah, that's something to placeholder for next time, because the my favorite thing, I will say this is like a TLDR right now. My favorite thing about a company is when they go, we've purchased this new tool. It's going to solve all our problems. And it's like, like, how do you think that? How do
Okay,
you, every time I've seen a CEO email announcing this or it's been discussed in a town hall, I just go, so we're just going to take all our current problems and put it onto a new system that no one knows how to run?
right.
Great idea.
Ta-da.
And one of my favorite things is AppFire. I found this out through Ed Gale when he was presenting at Ace Gdansk recently. AppFire have a really cool report looking at how many platforms and apps and stuff an enterprise has. And the average enterprise, and this isn't even the big ones with the shocking numbers, an average enterprise will have 150 plus different apps on their systems at any one time, different platforms or different whatever software. And to go down the products and talk about tooling and everything like that. I think it was
it's crazy
Boris.
because
Yeah,
that's crazy. Like I've seen companies that have like Monday, Trello, Asana, Jira,
right.
Rally. I'm like, why do you just need one? And they're like on Smart Sheets, but like every single team member wants their own little edge case, and I'm like, you can't run a company like this.
No. My favorite thing about the Atlassian ecosystem specifically is two fun things. The
And then we'll
first
close
one,
with those.
sorry?
And then we'll close with those two fun things.
Yeah, we'll close with those. And then we'll plan our next session, maybe a big the Jira life, how to have fun in companies. My two favorite factors when it comes to tooling in the Atlassian ecosystem is that one, huge enterprise, we're talking like the 50 or 100,000 employee data center and some server still users, the amount of small teams under 10, under 25 that will go off and build their own cloud system because it's just easier. And then they go and gain the budget to pull on different marketplace apps or integrations or upgrade to premium or something is staggering. I'd love to do a viable research one time on just how many cloud instances there are for on-prem customers from these Ninja Black Ops teams that just go, this on-prem's a disaster, the admins are overworked, we can't get what we want on time from them. Oh, okay, cool, we'll just manage our own cloud and it's just way easier. I'd love to do a research and try and actually find out that number. Because having done consulting at a variety of different marketplace partners and having their access to their CRMs, I could. It's against NDA.
Let
But
me
I
know
could give you my top 10 impression of which companies in the world have this going on. Like there's a master on-prem and then there's this breakout cloud instances.
I think Fun needs to start doing out like Salto's survey that they just did. I think Fun needs to just start a series of surveys that get sent out.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
Salto one, I
maybe.
don't know if you participated in that one, but they did like a survey for like compensation as a Jira admin. Like it was really great.
Yep. Yeah, the surveys are useful and handy, especially if the pools are good. If the pools are good and good numbers and stuff.
Well, you got
and
people with network like you, me, and
yeah, true. Yeah. My second one to finish on is that I know back in the day there was an Atlassian team running Trello before Trello was acquired, and they hated Jira so much internally. I mean, this is way back in 2015 or something, but they hated it so much they were just like, let's just use Trello.
And then we'll just buy it. Well, Andy, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you. It's been a blast.